Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert Camo, the fantasy football counselor. Love this episode. We are talking the worst fantasy football player from each team. I'm going to hand select one player that I absolutely dislike for fantasy football 2021 right here, right now, randomly. I didn't plan this episode. I'm literally going through every team's depth chart and selecting and honoring the worst player of the team. Now, that worst player could just simply be a player that people might be overpaying for this season. So yes, he's a good player in reality, but maybe he's being, drafted too high this season. His ADP is too high, and I don't like it. So the worst player based on ADP from each team right here, right now. Before I get into this, guys, two big announcements, two big announcements, okay? Number one, if you want to be in a best ball league with me, listen carefully, guys. There's a link here below on YouTube, okay? All you got to do is sign up to fantrax.com/FFC if you're listening in the car, fantrax.com/ or // I don't know, one of the others, /FFC. There's a link here below on YouTube. If you guys can't find the link, DM me, guys, at Fantasy Football Counselor on Instagram. I'll send you a link, and you can enter the Best Ball League. Once you guys sign up, I got to send you a separate link to get into the Best Ball League. There's going to be about $1,000 worth of cash or probably memorabilia prizes in this league, okay? Now, you can go in, draft right now. So fantrax.com/FFC. Head on over there right now, or again, link here below. Or DM me if you want the link. Say, Joe, I want to be in the Best Ball League. DM me the word Best Ball, gets you a link at Fantasy Football Counselor. Second thing, guys, manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLION, guys. Shower Lion's amazing. It saves you 20%. That's what it does. Manscaped.com. You don't have to worry about nicks and cuts. Shave around that sensitive area. Manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLION. You'll be very happy with your purchase. Father's Day is around the corner as well, okay? So let's get into this show, guys. We're talking the worst fantasy football player from each team. Let's dive in right now. All right, guys, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to dive in here. Worst player from each team. Before I do, guys, smash thumbs up, leave a comment below. Let me know which player you really dislike from each team, or at least it's going to be hard to go through all 32 teams yourself and type it all in, but pick a couple players you dislike from certain teams that you want to talk about in the comments below. Which player is the worst player from a team that you select, and get the 16-round draft solution, the first ever and only video training. Get it below. All right, so let's start here, guys, with Arizona Cardinals. Who's the worst player on this team? Now, let me do a little disclaimer here. There's a lot of players that suck, like people that have just done nothing on teams, like Max Williams, Andy Isabella. We know those guys are kind of bad, right? Atlanta Falcons have Frank Darby, Quadri Olsen, who are these guys? Jaden Graham, Russell Gage, Cordell Patterson. We know these players suck. So I'm going to pick the worst player from each team that you guys are aware of. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a fantasy relevant player that's the worst. Does that make sense? So you say, well, Joe, the Ravens have a guy named Devin Duvernay on their team, and he really sucks. He's, how could you say Marquise Brown sucks, for example? Well, Devin Duvernay, whatever his name is, doesn't play. He doesn't matter. He's not fantasy relevant. He won't be drafted. So I'm only going to be talking about draftable players, if that makes sense, okay? So let's start off with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll go A to Z. There's no Z team, but you know what I mean. All right, the worst player here, I got to go with Chase Edmonds. I think a lot of people are going to overdraft him thinking he's going to be the RB1. The guy's done nothing. Now, I can sit here, and it's going to take a lot of time to do this. I can go through fantasy stats and go through each and every running back here, but it's going to take forever to go through all the stats. Understand, guys, I've got a good understanding of these guys' stats. Go look at Chase Edmonds. He's done nothing the past couple years he's played. Always been a backup. Now they're saying he's a slated starter with James Conner. It's going to be a disaster there. James Conner, who can't stay on the field. How do you trust that guy? I don't trust the running back situation there. Yes, due to volume, he's going to get it, but I think Chase Edmonds is the worst player on that team, fantasy relevant right now. Now, you can make an argument for Christian Kirk and guys like that, but I think Chase Edmonds is going to be drafted ahead of Christian Kirk. So based on what I'm seeing, based on being overrated, based on years to wow me, and I'm not wowed. And a lot of these players, guys, years to wow me, and guess what? I'm not wowed. So to me, I consider him the worst player on the Arizona Cardinals right now for fantasy football. Chase Edmonds, a guy I would never touch. Now, it goes without saying I would never draft these people, okay? So understand that. And if you want the players to draft, 16-round drafts, so should all the optimal players draft, thefantasyfootballaccounts.com. Get 16 rounds. It is the game changer. Draft kits are dead, okay? Next team, Atlanta Falcons, the worst player here. Now, this is tough, but I got to go with, again, at the time of this recording, early June, Julio's not been traded yet. Who knows where he ends up? Probably coming soon. But I'm going to go, and I wasn't saying Julio was the worst player. I'm just laying out the depth chart here. I got to go with Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis is not a true workhorse running back one. People argue that with me. Argue it all you want. Years to wow, so we're not wow. Did well on Carolina as a backup, stepped in. And again, people could say, well, CMC is really good. That's why he was a backup. No, if you are ultra elite, if you're an ultra elite running back, and that's what I draft. I only mess with ultra elite running backs. If you're ultra elite, you would have started over Christian McCaffrey. Don't give me this bullshit that he's not a backup. He's a backup, because if he was not a backup, he would have started over Christian McCaffrey. I only want the thoroughbreds. I only want the top of the top, the cream of the crop. I want the guys on top. I would never draft a person that is not slated to be a running back one or a wide receiver one. I want the best of the best, because that's what my roster consists of. Mike Davis does not meet that criteria. Now, I don't care if he has a good season. I don't care if he ends up being the starter, and I don't care if he crushes it, finishes top 5 this year. He's had years to wow me, and I'm not wowed. He's been a backup, always be a backup, and I would not be surprised if they bring in another running back here to start over Mike Davis, because he's not a true running back one. Mike Davis is the worst player for fantasy on the Atlanta Falcons. Let's move on. Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to rapid fire some of these. Marquise Brown, what has he done? I mean, what has he done? I mean, you can make an argument with Sammy Watkins, some of these other guys, they suck as well. Now, I'm going to do a full suck episode, but Marquise Brown, what has he done? Drafted high, in the NFL draft on the Ravens. He's done nothing, not proven. Now, you can say Lamar Jackson doesn't throw enough, and I get it, but Marquise Brown, you, sir, suck, okay? Buffalo Bills, worst player here. This is a coin toss. I'm kind of torn here. Now, Zach Moss is slated as the RB1. Again, another team that doesn't have a true RB1. I got to go with Devin Singletary, absolutely sucking. He was slated as a starter last year, did nothing, completely sucks. Devin Singletary is the worst player on the Buffalo Bills for fantasy football, okay? And again, don't come and tell me, well, Joe, TJ Yeldon's on the team, he sucks more. I know, we're talking draftable players, somewhat fantasy relevant players, okay? Even though I don't consider them fantasy relevant for me. But you guys get the point. People will draft them, okay? Carolina Panthers, I got to go here with the overrated. You could make an argument here, but with a couple guys, but I got to go with DJ Moore. DJ Moore was drafted in the 3rd round. He cost you a 3rd round pick last year. I said stay away from draft Robbie Anderson last year, but a lot of people drafted DJ Moore, got screwed. Worst fantasy player coming off 4th and 5th round right now, still ahead of Robbie Anderson based on ADP going into 2021 fantasy football, which is absolutely ludicrous, absolutely crazy. I'm staying away from DJ Moore, the worst player for fantasy football on the Carolina Panthers. Moving on to the Bears, this is an easy one for me. I got to go with Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen, years to wow us, we're not wowed, got banged up. Finally, yes, I don't celebrate injuries, but yes, David Montgomery got the start last year, proved he can be the workhorse. Although Tariq Cohen is back, Damian Williams is back, they're going to be pests in regards to David Montgomery, so just be careful with the situation. But Tariq Cohen, the worst fantasy football player on the Chicago Bears, okay? Cincinnati Bengals, easy one for me. Joe Mixon, a guy that's been overrated, overinflated, who peaked statistically in his 2018, 2017 year. The guy just sucks. He's not good. He's always been overrated, overdrafted. Now currently sitting about 11th or 12th amongst the running backs on the consensus rankings. This guy was a top 10 running back last year, completely busted, got hurt, not sold on this guy, will never draft this guy. He is the most overrated guy. Now they've got Samaje Perine or Samaj Perine there, all these other guys. Now, he does have an opportunity because he's the best running back there, but again, he's not that good, right? So it tells you how sucky the other guys are. So Joe Mixon from the Bengals. Cleveland Browns, easy, won't waste enough time. You've heard me scream about this every single year. The most overrated player in fantasy football, yet he still sits on top of the depth chart, and people are still drafting him in the 5th round after he busted 3 years in a row after being drafted in the 1st round and busted last year being drafted in the 3rd round average ADP. The guy I'm talking about is Odell Beckham Jr., by far the worst fantasy football player of all time, the most overrated football player of all time. He is not a good player. He sucks. He can't stay healthy. He's overrated. He's a diva. I would never touch this guy. He's never been in my league, and I've succeeded simply predicated on the fact that I never invested an early pick on this loser that is Odell Beckham Jr. All right, Dallas Cowboys here. I mean, overall, a good team. It's hard to say anybody really sucks. I think there's a ton of talent here, but I got to go with any tight end here for the Dallas Cowboys, would be Blake or Dalton Schultz. Like, they just don't get it done. The tight ends just don't get it done statistically. So I'm just going to go with any tight end starting for the Dallas Cowboys. Denver Broncos here. I got to go with Melvin Gordon. I mean, last year had a chance to start. Philip Lindsay came in, had over 100 attempts, but didn't play the full season. Melvin Gordon just had under 1,000 yards. A guy that is slated as a running back one, but just never gets it done as a running back one. I know it. The Broncos know it. That's why they drafted this stud Javonte Williams, who I believe will take the job and is way better value in fantasy football drafts this year. Melvin Gordon sucks. He's not good. 6 seasons, only 1,000-yard rushing season. That to me states to me that I don't trust this guy and he's not good. If you are an ultra elite running back, if you are a starting running back, if you are a running back that is, kind of stated that you're the starter, you're kind of the workhorse, you're kind of the guy, and all you do is come up with 1,000-yard rushing season. We've got some issues. We have a sit down and talk here. And I think that's what the Denver Broncos did. That's why they brought in Javonte Williams, drafted early draft capital in him, brought him in, could steal the starting job. Okay. Shipped off Lindsay. They want that workhorse. Javonte Williams could be the guy. Okay. Detroit Lions here. They always suck for fantasy, but there's a lot of crappy players here. I got to go here with Adrian Peterson. I mean, if he thinks he's going to get some play time this year, he may. He just hasn't been good. A guy that thinks he's still there, but he's not. A guy that should retire. Adrian Peterson, I'm staying away. Green Bay Packers, who sucks here? I mean, I got to simply go here with Marquise Valdes-Scantling, a guy that was overhyped a couple years ago, supposed to be a guy that's, be a complement to Devontae Adams. Even with Devontae Adams showing some signs of injuries a couple years ago, MVS was supposed to come in, steal that job, never did. They brought in Alan Lazard, did a little bit better. Again, MVS, not a guy that I would trust, and he absolutely sucks, and probably one of the worst players in fantasy football on the Green Bay Packers offense, okay? Houston Texans, complete disaster of an offense here. I got to give it to Randall Cobb here. Years to wow us, we're not wowed. You could make a debate to David Johnson, but David Johnson still finished with relatively good numbers, was banged up with injury, came out, tore it up near the end of the season, and actually outperformed Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a first-round pick, top 6, 7, 8 pick by the consensus rankings. David Johnson, 4th-round pick last year in fantasy, outscored Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year. So I can't really say David Johnson completely sucks, but I got to go here with Randall Cobb here for the Houston Texans, okay? Indianapolis Colts. There's a problem here with the committee, and you got to click subscribe, guys. Click subscribe. You cannot miss any of my content. I'm going to be doing a depth chart episode breaking down these teams. And it's scaring me here. Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins, Jonathan Taylor. Nyheim Hines sucks because he's never going to be the workhorse guy. He's going to come in and be a pest. So I really dislike Nyheim Hines when it comes to fantasy football. He's the guy that I think is the worst player on this team. You could make a debate here for guys like Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, but I got to go Nyheim Hines because he's going to be an annoying pest, and he's just never going to produce high on fantasy numbers, but he's just going to be a thorn in the side of Jonathan Taylor. So look out, guys. It's going to be a bit of an annoying committee, and maybe Jonathan Taylor is overdrafted, and just be cautious, okay? Again, if you do draft him, robust RB strategy. Jacksonville Jaguars here, I got to go with Carlos Hyde. He's on this roster. He sucks. I mean, he is a guy that just he's like kind of like the gatekeeper. If it was UFC, they have these young guys fight some of these veterans to kind of see if they're good enough to break through the top 10 or top 12. Carlos Hyde is kind of that veteran they bring in just to sit on the bench and warm it up. Like, he is not good. He is the worst player on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't even know why he's playing. He's like an Adrian Peterson. Like, just retire, go away. You're not going to get work. Like, just go away. Kansas City Chiefs, I got to go here with DeMarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle. Byron Pringle. I mean, like, the guy's a chip, right? Like, he's named after the chips, Pringles. That's all I remember him for. Like, he catches one touchdown pass the entire season. He has this one highlight reel. I think of Pringles. I go grab some chips, and away we go. I'm done. So Byron Pringle is probably the worst player on the Kansas City Chiefs for fantasy, and some people still draft him as a late-round guy, right? There's other guys. Darrell Williams. Talk about a terrible running back. Darrell Williams, my God. Jerick McKinnon, I mean, the guy was slated to be an RB1 a couple years ago, did nothing. Actually, you know what? I got to go with Le'Veon Bell here, but I think he's a free agent. I don't know what's going on with Le'Veon Bell. He's not even fantasy relevant. So if I were to go last year, I'd say Le'Veon Bell. This year, I got to go with Byron Pringle here. He sucks, so Byron Pringle for me. Los Angeles Chargers. Oh, this is an easy one for me. That's why I made the artwork, this person. Austin Eckler. Used to wow me, I'm not wowed, and he cost everybody a late first-round pick, except for the people that got 16 rounds, and except for myself. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler, a backup, always been a backup, not a true workhorse running back, and I am floored here. The fact that the Chargers did not draft a workhorse running back. We understand Herbert's going to throw the ball a lot, which is good. They brought in and drafted Josh Palmer, improved the O-line, which they needed to do to protect this amazing investment that is Justin Herbert, which I absolutely love. They drafted Larry Roundtree the third. They drafted him later. I don't know if he's going to be a threat much to start here because they all suck at running back here. But I got to go with Austin Eckler because, again, years to wow me. We're not wowed. He's by far the worst fantasy player, and he's done nothing but cost you a late first-round pick in your draft last year if you drafted and listened to the sheep. I don't trust him. I'm staying away from Austin Eckler. Moving on to the Rams. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, how is he still on this team? I got to go with Darrell Henderson. He's just not good. Worst player on that team. Hopefully Cam Akers becomes the workhorse and, gets the starting job and plays all three downs, okay? Vegas Raiders, I got to go with Drake here. I hate Josh Jacobs, dislike him. We should have had a boxing match. That never happened. If you don't know the backstory, last year Josh Jacobs came out and said that he was not going to play in a game in fantasy. A lot of people were skeptical about starting him. A lot of people probably sat him because of that because he said he wasn't going to play. He ended up playing and told everybody to go F your fantasy team. So I told him to go F himself. Sure enough, Josh Jacobs actually came back and said, screw me, whatever, let's fight, whatever, let's box. He goes, you know where I'm at, pull up. That's not true because I had no idea where he was at. I had no idea of his geographical location, but he told me he said that I knew where he was at and to pull up. I said that we should have a charity boxing match. Sure enough, that never happened as well because as soon as he agreed to it and he said, yeah, let's do it, he ended up blocking me. So he's a coward. He's a loser. As much as I think he's the worst player on this team because he hates fantasy, I still think he's going to put up some fantasy points. I think Drake is actually much worse. So Drake is by far the worst fantasy player on the Raiders. Derek Carr, an honorable mention, but I would never draft him as well. Almost done here. Miami Dolphins. Man, I don't trust anybody on this team. I'm going to go with Malcolm Brown. I don't know. Man, the whole team kind of sucks. Any tight end except for Gesicki. Adam Shireen, whatever the hell his name is. The whole team sucks for fantasy. I mean, this year, Tua could revive this offense. You could have an emergence of guys like Devontae Parker, Jalen Waddle. I don't trust them. I don't trust these guys. Minnesota Vikings. Well, Joe, who's the worst player on the Miami Dolphins? Tell me. I'm not drafting anybody. Lynn Bowden. There you go. I'm breaking the rules of this show. I'm going to stay away. I might get Gesicki later. I'm not going to lie. But let's go with Devontae Parker. There you go. There's a name. Worst player there. Mike, it could have a good year. I'm just not going to draft him. Minnesota Vikings. This one's tough. Man, I got to go with Madison. I mean, he's a big letdown. He had an opportunity to surpass Dalvin Cook when Cook gets hurt. He did nothing when Cook got hurt. He showed some good numbers prior to Cook getting hurt. Cook got hurt for a game or two. Madison couldn't step up. He sucked. I called him out and he sucked and he wanted to fight me as well and he backed out as well. It's crazy, man. These players have ego issues and they're narcissists. The New England Patriots, staying away from this entire team, but I got to go with James White, a guy that always gets drafted 5th, 6th, 7th round. Always people think that they're going to get some sort of value out of him, but he sucks. I would never draft him. The New Orleans Saints, I got to go here with Taysom Hill. A lot of people may draft him as a backup quarterback thinking he's going to be good. He's not good. He's going to be hoarding some value away from Alvin Kamara this year at the goal line. That's a problem and a big turnoff for me from Alvin Kamara this year, so be cautious there, okay? New York Giants here. I got to go with Devontae Booker. I can't believe he's still in the league. Talk about a guy that defines the word sucking for fantasy football. He is worse than the Peyton Barbers of the world. Devontae Booker, he absolutely sucks. Now, there is some talk about Saquon Barkley possibly being limited in reps at the starting of the season. In starts Devontae Booker. I mean, man, talk about a terrible running back. It's bad. New York Jets, Corey Davis slated as the starter. He sucks. I mean, maybe Zach Wilson will make something out of Corey Davis. I'd rather have Elijah Moore super late and free as a wide receiver sleeper. But I mean, I look at Corey Davis, talk about a guy who came into the league with high expectations and absolutely has done nothing. So it's a toss-up between him and Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman, another guy that sucks. So, I mean, this team looks horrible on paper, like absolutely horrible. I mean, again, the bright side is Zach Wilson and maybe the emergence of Elijah Moore and Michael Carter at running back. Michael Carter at running back and Elijah Moore at wide receiver, that is. So, again, man, it just does not look like a bright, high-octane offense right now. So I could be wrong, but Corey Davis, okay? Moving on to the Eagles here, I got to go with, this is a tough one here, but, you know, I guess he's not, you know what, that's not right, because Joe Flacco's not draftable. I can't say that. So I got to go with, I don't know, Greg Ward. Are people going to draft him? Miles Sanders, overrated. Like, it's always going to be a committee here. Like, Jordan Howard, but no one's going to draft him. The whole team sucks here. Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, obviously the bright side here, but I'm not really sold on Jalen Hurts getting it done here. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders because he was a big letdown last year. Average ADP second to third round last year. High expectations. Turned out to be a committee. Eagles can't be trusted for fantasy football, so I'm going to go ahead and stay away from that. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers here. Worst player. Man, I got to go with Juju. I don't like the guy. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his personality. I don't like the fact that he TikToks. I don't like the fact that he doesn't take things seriously. I don't like the fact that he busted last year when people were drafting him in the second, third round. And I said, stay away. Stay away. Get Deontay Johnson later. Deontay Johnson, top target getter with 144 targets, led the team in targets last year. Juju's not a guy I trust. Juju's not a guy that I will be drafting this year. Overrated, and he sucks, okay? He was a product of the Steelers offense with Antonio Brown drawing the double coverage, opening things up, and, you know, just a young guy that did well on an offense that was good that year, right? So not sold on him, right? All right, Seattle Seahawks, I got to go here with, this is a tough one here, but I got to go with Chris Carson, another guy that's always been overdrafted, always gets injured, always doesn't produce on a high level. Strong guy, just can't stay healthy. You could make an argument with Rashad Penny, but I don't think anyone's drafting him anymore because he sucks. So again, guys, there is some upside with some of these players on this team, but the worst player I wouldn't draft based on ADP is Chris Carson. 49ers here, man, I got to go here with Raheem Mostert. What has he done? I mean, he has shown some flashes that he could be good, but it's always a committee here. Jeff Wilson's going to be banged up for the beginning of the season, or I think he's out 4 to 6 months or something like that. Trey Sermon could emerge here, but Raheem Mostert, I'm not drafting him. The Buccaneers, I mean, man, this is a tough one. They're all pretty good players, but what has Leonard Fournette done, right? Like, what is Leonard, like, this is a guy that's supposed to be the guy. What has he done? So Leonard Fournette, to me, no, you know, sucks. All right, Tennessee Titans here. Man, this is tough. The whole team kind of like, you know, Henry, Brown. Other guys aren't. This is a weird team because none of these guys are draftable. So, like, if you look at Darrington Evans, he sucks. Guys like that, you know, they're not going to, like, there isn't a guy here that sucks because no one's going to draft him. So, A.J. Brown, pretty respectable for where he's been at. I mean, his ADP is a little high this year, but that's okay. Henry and Tannehill are the only draftable guys. So I can't really say anyone sucks here because no one's going to be drafted. So Tennessee, that's going to be a bypass here. You know, last team here, Washington football team. I don't know, man. I got to go with Peyton Barber. That's it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know anyone, no one's going to draft him. But again, I'd probably go with Peyton Barber here, Curtis Samuel, guys like that. Another crappy team that I wouldn't touch anybody on there, except for maybe Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin. But again, just a crappy team. A lot of crappy players. All right, guys, so there's your worst player from each fantasy football team or NFL team and for fantasy football this season. Again, a lot of content. I'm trying to give you guys some golden nuggets in each episode. And as I'm talking, hopefully you're picking stuff up. But again, if you guys want everything in one spot, get the 16-round draft solution at thefantasyfootballcounts.com. Smash thumbs up, guys. It takes 2 seconds of your time, probably less, actually. It really helps the channel. And comment below who's the worst player on maybe your favorite team. Love to hear that feedback. And there you have it, guys. Stay away from these players, for God's sakes. And I will be doing a suck-a-soda very soon. Thank you, guys. Fantasy football season's almost here, and I am out.